wait till Saturday to preview that game? We have Jake Butt right here, so let's preview it with him. I want kind of a big picture thought first. This is another opportunity for Penn State to win the big game, right? That's been the knock on them, honestly, this century, because they only have one win against a top 5 ranked opponent in 24 opportunities since the year 2000. This win would not only give them the Big Ten championship, it put them at the #1 seed in all likelihood in the playoff.
Yeah, and really think about how many of those matchups were Ohio State and Michigan, right? Like and I look at the Ohio State-Michigan game this past weekend, and the result, a big reason the result was the way it was the mental side of it. Penn State falling short consistently against Ohio State and Michigan. There's a mental aspect to that. What I'm interested in is this is a fresh start. Oregon and Penn State, they don't really know each other. James Franklin and Dan Lanning, they don't really know each other. You know, it's like a free throw shooter late in the game. You don't want to be conscious of your shots. You just want to go up and do your routine. You know, for James Franklin as a coach, you don't want to be conscious of the moment. You want to coach the way you have all year. And sometimes in big games, you get away from that. You know, the goal line stand that Ohio State's defense stuffed Penn State. Why is Tyler Warren not getting a touch, right? Like, you see what I'm saying? The mental side. I look at this game from an X's and O's standpoint. It's won and lost in the trenches. It is that simple to me. Oregon's defensive line deserves so much more credit than what they've got this year. It's the most underrated defensive line in college football. Derek Harmon, probably the most underrated interior defensive line in college football. He is a force. But at all 3 levels, they're great. PFF has these defensive grades. Per PFF, Oregon is one of 2 teams to have a top 5 defensive line grade and a top 5 linebacker grade. Oh, and they also have a top 5 coverage grade. So the defense is great. On the flip side, how about this one right here with Dillon Gabriel? It will be won on the back of him in the skill position. Here's the key. Oregon's offensive line against Penn State's defensive line. Top 10 quarterback when he's not facing pressure and when he's not blitzed. Still a good quarterback under pressure and when he's blitzed, but you see the difference there. Can Abdul-Carter and Denai Dennis-Sutton and Zane Durant get after Dillon Gabriel? If not, I like the wide receivers and tight ends and skill Oregon against Penn State's secondary, especially with Tez Johnson back and healthy.
It is not a guarantee that all the Heisman votes will wait. They've already been handed out, but there are 2 guys that could make a big impression. I don't think it's going to Dillon Gabriel or Tyler Warren, but they both have a good shot of making it to New York to be one of the finalists. And this is a great opportunity for both of them individually.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Dillon Gabriel deserves, he deserves more conversation. He's been having a phenomenal year. He's the quarterback of the #1 team in the country, and he's undefeated. He's their everything. And another subtle piece of it is his ability to run, like his legs. That's something that Penn State's going to have to account for. On the flip side, I look to go back to the trench play. You know, Penn State, when they played Ohio State, that's a similar defense, Ohio State and Oregon's defense. Okay, they struggled. Penn State's offensive line struggled. They only had 150 yards passing on the day, only 120 yards rushing on the day. They were 3 for 11 on 3rd downs. A big reason for that is Ohio State's defensive line and pressure package got to Drew Aller and stuffed Singleton. Remember, we were thinking in that game, watching it, why does Tyler Warren not have more touches? This is the game where Tyler Warren, at minimum, needs 10 touches. Probably 10 targets, which will lead to 7 or 8 catches, a few carries, and a few Wildcat passing opportunities. They have got to win this game on the back of Tyler Warren.
And they can.
And they can.
I mean, he's shown us the ability to do all those things. Drew Aller can get him the ball. That's an opportunity. I'm curious, the one matchup I'm looking at is Jordan James against the Penn State running defense. How much is Oregon going to get in terms of rushing yards in this game? And they're not the best rushing offense, but it is a very good rushing defense that Penn State has that's going to be shutting them down.
And again, that's the trenches. It's, you know, Oregon's offensive line, they should be a finalist for the Joe Moore Award, in my opinion. Like, that is an elite unit that has, remember that we questioned them the first 2 games, and then they made some corrections, and they've been freaking dominant since then. One more thing, too, is red zone scoring. That's been a big storyline across college football, pro football, football in general. On the season, red zone scoring, Penn State's offense, they're 14th in red zone scoring offensively. Oregon's 48th. And we've seen when they've gotten in trouble, Wisconsin's a good example. Dylan Gabriel throws some interceptions and makes some mistakes down in the red zone. So the difference between field goals and touchdowns and the difference between scoring or interceptions can make all the difference in the world. I think Penn State would want to win by keeping it a lower scoring game. The flip side would be, I think if Oregon could turn this into a shootout, I don't know that Penn State has the firepower to match up with what Oregon has.
I was just going to say, another thing to watch is if there's quick scores. Penn State is not the team necessarily to come from behind. Oregon is the team to score quickly and to get an early lead and hang on to it. Again, that's coming up on Saturday.